having hello, welcome to Studies in Theatre MOOC program. We have been discussing writing very intensively, various aspects of writing in theatre. Now, carrying on from the discussion about the screenplay, we will look at one more genre of writing, one more aspect of writing in theatre in this discussion. Writing scenes and sequences. So, scenes is a very crucial part of writing in theatre. This may sound to you some kind of discussion that is useful in your writing that you require for different kinds of medium. So, in general, we can call it writing that is important in performance spheres, various performance spheres. So, screenwriting, in the screenwriting process, scenes and sequences are essential components. These components, they define the narrative and they also take further one by one towards the conclusion of the storyline and towards the resolution of the conflict in the plot. So, individual units, scenes are individual units. They occur in specific locations and times. So, one scene takes place in one location and in one time frame. These feature characters engaged in conflict, dialogue, or significant events. Scenes change when the location or the time changes. In the same location, the time can change, or in a different location, there is different time. So there is a sequence of scenes. These are related scenes that form a cohesive narrative unit. These are structured around a common theme, goal, or a dramatic question. Sequences develop characters, explore conflicts, and build momentum toward the plot points, the main points in the plot of the performance or theatre play or whatever you are writing the scenes for. Each scene has a clear beginning, middle and end, and it has a distinct purpose. It has a certain dramatic arc. Now, what is called dramatic arc? Dramatic arc is the entire trajectory of a particular scene in which the action begins, it reaches its climax, and then the action falls. So there is this arc, the bigger arc that belongs to the entire play. That arc has smaller steps to attain that big arc of performance, and these smaller steps are in the form of the scenes, which in itself has an arc of its own. The beginning establishes characters, conflict and context. The middle develops conflict and raises stakes, while the end resolves conflict or sets up the next scene. So there is always a possibility for next scene in the end of the scene, unless it is the last scene of your play. So how do you sequence your scenes? There are certain techniques for that. Each scene needs to be sequenced with the previous scene and the scene that is going to come after it. So writers use various techniques like chronological sequencing, parallel storytelling, flashbacks and non-linear structures to organize scenes and sequences logically. So the scenes are sometimes one after the other if the plot is going in a linear fashion, but many a times there are scenes in which there is a digression and then it comes back to the main plot, there is a subplot. So you have to arrange the scenes of a play keeping this in mind. You cannot write all the scenes sitting in one time frame or in a linear fashion. You can choose to write scenes before and after or as you desire, but when you sit down to arrange them in the entire plot, you must be very careful that they should appear logically arranged, and they must have some kind of uh, logical correlation with each other. They must also have a beginning and ending to connect with the previous action and the action that has to follow. So these are the sequencing techniques. Either you can connect them in the time frame, or you can tell parallel stories, or you can use flashback techniques. You can use non-linear structure where you are going from one direction into different directions, then coming back. So these can be used as uh, techniques for the writing of sequencing of a scenes. Then from one scene to the other, there has to be transition. So the transition should be as smooth as possible, because if the transition is abrupt or it's sudden, then that will lead to a break in the viewing of the performance, and audience will feel some kind of disjointedness. They will have to make an effort, and the flow of that viewing will be disturbed. So smooth transitions between scenes are important, because that maintain narrative flow and coherence. uh, Narrative of the play, the storyline, the main text of the play, the what of the play, what happens, what is the play about, that should not get broken because of the transition. If that is intact, it means your transition is going in the right direction. And coherence. You can compare this coherence to that coherence which takes place when we write something, and we have to connect one paragraph with other paragraph, and there should be a kind of logical connection between the two paragraphs. That connection is created through coherence as a device of writing. That same mindset has to be used by you while writing scenes. So you can use visual cues, some dialogues, sound effects, or symbolic imagery to connect one scene to the next. What is the meaning of visual cues? Maybe some kind of setting is same, and the property that is decorated on stage is same, and the scene, for example, if you are showing the school classroom on the stage, and the other scene also has the school classroom, and both the scene are to be placed in the same classroom, so you don't change the setting. It is visible that this is another scene in the same place, and people will understand that they are connected with each other. Then you can use dialogues in which you can, like, some character is saying that I am going to the bank. So then it means that he's in the next scene should be of bank, because he is going to bank. Then sound effects, maybe similar sound effects, or some the character is walking from one end of the stage to the other, but he is trying to show that I have come into a different place. How will you show that he has come to a different place or it is a different scene? By creating new set of sounds which are suitable to show that where has he reached. And of course, symbolic imagery, as you remember, in Waiting for Godot, there is a very interesting symbolic representation in the two scenes. The second scene also takes place in that same wasteland, but the only difference that the second scene has is there are certain leaves, few leaves on that tree, which was totally barren in the first scene. So there is a connection between the two scenes. The tree is the connection, that tree has a symbolic representation, and those leaves have come out, which means that a long time has passed, so long enough that the tree has started sprouting leaves. So these are certain methods in which you can create sequence in your scenes and create coherence to connect one scene with the other. Now, while writing scenes and sequences, you must also keep in mind these kinds of things, that is pacing and rhythm. So that is crucial for shaping audience experience. Pacing means the speed and the rhythm. Both these things are very important for creating a connect with the audience. The audience have to experience the speed of the play, and they are engaged in that viewing. So if your technique of dialogue is changing from one scene to the other, the pace is not uniform, then it will not have a very organic impact on the audience. The audience will have to adjust themselves separately for every scene. If every scene looks different from the point of view of its speed and the rhythm of dialogues, so dialogues, action and visual imagery control is important for tempo and intensity. So try to look for these kinds of things when you are trying to create a rhythm that is proper for your play, for different kinds of scenes, and pacing that is not so unsettling that it disrupts the viewing, or it is so settling that it hardly makes any difference for the viewers. So it should not be too negligible, so to say, and it should not be too dynamic. It must be somewhere in between, so that your audience feels that they are watching a good play. There is a kind of connect. The pace is fine. For example, if there is an argument that is taking place in one scene, that argument has a certain pace. Now, in the next scene, the same people are having an argument on the same issue, but now their speed of speaking, dialogues has changed. The pace of the whole scene has changed. Now the audience will start wondering what has happened. They are not talking in the same way, they are talking differently. Something has changed. They will be baffled. So this is not a desired impact on the audience. Unless you really want to create this impact, this is not advisable. So you keep in mind that you have to take care of pacing and rhythm when you are writing scenes, and in between you have to keep a check of all these things. Then the next important thing is emotional impact. Effective scenes evoke emotional responses by immersing audiences in characters' experiences and relationships. Authentic dialogues, nuanced characterizations, and compelling storytelling create emotional resonance. So, you have to keep in mind as a writer, as a playwright, that what is it that you want to solicit in terms of response from the audience. Well, many a times we may achieve something totally unsolicited and still be happy for that. But that's a different story. First and foremost, when a playwright writes a play, he or she has a certain target to achieve in terms of the emotional impact on the audience. Now, that emotional response is achieved by all the elements of play, and in that also comes how your scenes are arranged and sequenced. So you need to immerse the audience in characters' different experiences, their relationships. So for that, try to write authentic dialogues. Very nuanced characterizations is required, and you also have to achieve a very compelling storytelling, and that will only create the atmosphere of emotional resonance. This can be achieved if you have intelligently woven your scenes with each other. So keep in mind that emotional impact of a play is achieved by dialogues and acting and costumes and everything, but also by the manner in which the scenes are arranged in a particular text. Then storyboarding. This helps you in visualizing scenes and sequencing. So this is a practice, how you can practice achieving the right arrangement of the scenes that you are writing. So you can do scenes and scenes, have scenes ready, arrange them in different kinds of sequences. Here it's written filming because this is also aiming to inspire you into writing for the videos. But you can also think of this while you are writing plays. So this is a storyboard, that example is given here. In this storyboard, you can see that one ordinary Thursday, I noticed something out of the ordinary. So now the scene shifts here. Now, how will you do the same thing on the stage? This you have to keep in mind. So keep that, how different scenes are to be recorded, or if you are shooting your play, or how will you make the audience look in a certain corner of the stage, or want the audience to look on the entire stage. Now you can create these changes with the help of light, but still your scenes are written. When I'm saying filming and camera, you may get confused that we are simply talking about cinema or TV or OTT platform, but keep this in mind that on the stage, scenes are written for staging in different parts of the stage. Earlier, playwrights would not bother about these things because they would stage their plays not with the help of very detailed kind of light arrangements. But now we have the privilege of better light arrangements, and we can define our stage. We can have this grammar according to light arrangement, and different parts of the stage can be used as different corners, as if we are watching through camera, where one particular part of the stage is highlighted with the light, then in the next scene it's the entire stage that is highlighted with the light. So that makes a difference. So you are writing this, but you may say that this is not my job. This is the job of the light arranger or light expert. But when you are writing, as you can keep these things in mind, and you can note them down somewhere in order to share them with your production team, that how would you like to make it visible on the stage. This is possible when a playwright is involved in the production as well. But of course, you cannot always be involved in production, because a play once written can be performed many times by separate production teams, and they may have a different version of representing those same scenes. So writing scenes in sequence, therefore, is a very dynamic and creative process, and it requires a lot of attention, planning, craftsmanship. You need to have detailing in your mind, planning, how will you construct the entire scene so that your audience enjoys it to the full. Then how you can create compelling characters for screenplays. Character development. Characters are the heart and soul of any screenplay, driving the narrative and engaging the audience through their actions and relationships. So effective character development involves creating multi-dimensional, relatable and memorable characters. So create multi-dimensional characters. Write characters who are relatable. Write characters who are memorable. These three parameters will motivate you, will guide you into writing or creating those characters which have very important impact on the entire screenplay. Then, like the plot arc, characters also have an arc of their own because they undergo transformation throughout the screenplay. So, characters undergo transformation, experiencing internal and external changes in beliefs, values, and behaviors in response to challenges and conflicts. Well developed characters arcs add depth, complexity, and emotional resonance to the story of the play. Then protagonist, do make special efforts and try to think very differently about your protagonist, give attention to protagonist, because that is the central character. The journey of the protagonist forms the backbone of your play. So they should have clear goals, motivations and obstacles that drive the plot forward. The protagonist's arc should be compelling, believable, and emotionally resonant. Antagonists are also important parts of the play, any performance. So think of how you will generate conflict where an antagonist also has an equal play or equal role, or can assert and disturb the protagonist to such an extent that that will engage the audience nicely, because they represent opposing forces and they always create obstacles in the in protagonist's path to achieve his goals or her goals and values. So a very well developed antagonist, especially layered characterization of an antagonist, is a sound idea, it's a good idea for playwriting. Then supporting characters, I've already spoken about them. They do play important role. They add depth to the entire narrative. They add layers with their subplots. So keep in mind that you can bring in comic relief, you can bring in additional storyline, you can create some short episodes in order to make your play more interesting with the help of characters. Then characters have backstories, provide context and depth to characters' motivations and relationships. They reveal key events and experiences that shape who they are and how they interact with the world. So something may have happened with them in the past, how that has to be shown in their personality, because you are not showing their past, but their past is visible in their characterization. So you can use this technique. It's a very important technique of adding depth to a character when a character has a certain past. Then the relationships of characters drive the emotional core of the screenplay. Whether romantic, familial, or platonic, relationships should be nuanced and evolving, reflecting characters' personalities and conflicts. These days we do not have, white and black characters, totally good, totally bad. That kind of portrayal is not relatable for any person in this world. So try to create characters who are relatable, characters who have different kinds of emotional elements to their personality. Sometimes they are representing the romantic aspect, sometimes they are representing the familial aspect. So you can choose a combination of different types of emotions in a character depending on your story and plot. Characterization techniques. This include physical descriptions, personality traits, quirks, speech patterns, and internal monologues. Each character should have a distinct voice and presence. So try to think of how you can make them quirky, how you can make them idiosyncratic, how you can give them certain body language, certain words pronunciation, because that make them, all these things make them very real and very palpable, because these are realities of life which often go unnoticed because we are living with so many different kinds of people that we develop habit of having some kind of strange habits in each other. But that needs to be observed and brought in on the stage in order to give characterization technique a variety. And the other aspect is audience engagement. When your characters become popular with audience, they emotionally get attached emotionally with the characters, and that generates empathy in them, that they invest their emotions in the characters and their journeys, their relationships. They become part of audience's emotional landscape. This therefore gives a very important engagement in your play. And while a play is being staged and if audience is very rightly connected to the play, then that also adds to the performance quality of the actors. So all in all, this will ultimately benefit your play as a text and performance also. So crafting compelling characters is essential. Keep that in mind for creating what? For creating memorable and impactful screenplays, plays. So by investing time and effort into characters, you can achieve these kinds of things. Now the next aspect is dialogue writing. Importance of dialogue. How do we write dialogues in a screenplay for a film or a TV serial? How do we do that? So dialogue is a crucial element of screenplays, driving character development, advancing the plot, and engaging the audience. So character development is done through plot, storyline, scenes, sequencing, cohesion, but it is also achieved through dialogues. Story progresses through dialogues. So it expresses the character traits, it expresses motivations and relationships while moving the story forward with the clarity and authenticity. So try to have natural dialogues, dialogues which should have some kind of palpability around them, that these things can be spoken by people and resembling the real life conversations. Too rhetoric dialogue in for a play which is about common man will not be good suggestion. Similarly, very simplistic kind of dialogue for a person who is of a very high caliber or very complex ideas will not be a good suggestion. So these things have to be what is natural for whom. So this idea of natural is not universal for all kinds of plays. The idea of universal means what suits which character, and that audience will be able to relate that yes, this is a good character, this is a good portrayal, such people speak this kind of language. So, subtext and emotion should be conveyed through nuances of dialogues, tonality, and the context. Then, the voice of character is also something that, of course, you cannot control as a playwright, but you can suggest some few things in your directions, in your parenthesis. And if you are writing a screenplay, then you can, of course, try to talk to directors what kind of voice and personality will suit, because if you give a certain description in the parenthesis of the script, then that will probably help the playwright people to understand. Similarly, subtext and other conflict and exposition versus action, all these things also have to be kept in mind when you are creating dialogues, because these represent meanings, intentions, emotions. Conflict arises from differing goals, beliefs or agendas, driving tension, narrative development. So how you will expose the how will you do the exposition means the action and exposition have to be balanced. They should not look maltreated, or they should not be overshadowing each other. So moving on, we have dialogue writing for screenplays. As I already told you, pacing and rhythm, subtle reveals, experiential dialogues, revision and polishing. So dialogue writing is that a skill that requires practice, observation, and empathy for characters and their journeys. So if you master this art of dialogue, then the playwrights and the writers can breathe life into their plays, their screenplays, and characters who will emerge out of such writing are very interesting characters. So you can see the sample character cues with dialogue are given. For example, it is for the movie Godfather. Paramount Picture has given an embassy picture. So those two sets of cues are there, and you can compare these two cues how it helps. Then we have practicing screenwriting techniques, writing exercises, engage in regular exercises to sharpen your skills. That includes scene prompts, character studies, dialogue challenges, brainstorming sessions. Then also analyze your script from various genres, from the perspective of time, from the perspective of culture. Look at the dynamics of dialogue, how it is paced, and themes and other things. Then look for feedback and critique for your write-ups, for your writing. Don't just think that everything is done and dusted. Try to think of workshops, feedback sessions, readings where you can have some reviews of your work. You can always try some script writing software for professional help, but do go for some good platforms. Do not go for cheap platforms where you may have fear of getting plagiarized, your work getting plagiarized. Then participate in competitions and challenges to push your creative boundaries. Continuously educate yourself and keep practicing. Here you can see how this script shows that there is never an end, even though this script is typed and done, but there is always a possibility for revision, and an actual writer's workshop should always have many of these kinds of papers and diaries and files. So these are some tips for you. Now these are some recommended websites for screenwriting resources. the Blacklist, Script Mag, Screencraft, the Writer's Store, Simply Scripts, No Film School, the Screenwriters Network, Final Draft Blog. So these are some of the websites where you can go for trying out your screenwriting or how to write screenplay. So because many a times the plays that are written are also to be transformed into screenplays. And you may need to write a screenplay for a play that is already written by another playwright. So Phil, in that situation also, this lecture is going to help you. So don't just think that this lecture has only one dimension of cinema or screenplay, but how because technique of screenplay is so advanced now, it is such an advanced field and such a professional field that people in the business of theatre, people in the world of theatre can also pick up certain tips in order so that they can improve their text and their performance text as well. So these websites not only offer you training, but they also offer you exposure, samples, they review your work, they also organize online sessions, workshop sessions where you can share your work, get it reviewed or get hands-on training to write specific issues that I have discussed in the entire lecture. So that is why I'm sharing these kinds of things. And obviously there are a lot of things that are in the internet domain available for your use. You can try those also. So these are some of those that I have shared. So try to join the communities that are supporting screenwriters at different stages of their careers, because even when you are a very established screenwriter, you can always go for some kind of advancement in your technique and try to write some kind of challenging text so that you can match with the pace of the time, the changing time. So these are the things that I have shared with you. The sources of the pictures that I have used are these. Thank you very much. I hope that this lecture has benefited you. I'll meet you in different lecture. Thank you.